Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Taurus Rising. With me, I'm Ursula Duffy and my wonderful business partner and co-host, Mandee Elam. Mandee, hello. How are you doing today?
I am good, excited, honored, grateful to hold some space with you and our most recent episode of Taurus Rising. And I'm really excited for all the energies and topics we're going to discuss.
Yeah, so we are on the brink of the first eclipse season of 2022. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to go over dates and times and things like that, and a bit of the astrology. And then Mandee and I are going to share some personal stories and go back in time a little bit, because the last time the eclipses were where they are right now and what we're moving into was 18 and a half years ago. So we're going to go back to back in the catalog of our lives a little bit and share some experiences that we were going through then. And then we'll talk a little bit about what to expect now, and hope that you all get a lot of good information about this and how to navigate the energies going in, and just a little bit about what to expect. How are you feeling on the brink of this, Mandee?
Interesting. I have some flare-ups going on in my vessel and in my body that I'm kind of dealing with. But my attitude and my mindfulness is excited and grateful. And I feel this surge of kind of staticky energy coming in. But I'm also I'm starting I'm starting a new job in my life. I have our business. I've got a lot of growth and things happening at this time. And then just weird little hiccups. But nothing that's letting me getting me down or anything like that. And so that's exciting. And I don't know, I'm just feeling like I'm ready for change. I'm ready for positive change, and I'm ready for freedom in a lot of ways.
That is a really good segue, that statement right there.
Okay.
Because well, just to recap a little bit. So we talked a little bit about eclipses last summer in our June episodes, I think. So just to recap for everyone, eclipses bring change. it actually they eclipse things into or out of our lives depending on where they're happening in our charts. And you can kind of just go back in time like we're going to do and see what was going on 18 and a half years ago in your life, and reevaluate things that may have happened then, where you are now, and your personal growth and all of that. So eclipses happen seasonally. They occur whenever the sun gets very close to a node of the moon. So right now the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio, North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So we're in Taurus season now and have been since, I think, April 19th, April 20th. So we have the sun approaching the North Node. So that's why we are in eclipse season. And a lot of people work with them kind of like the lunation that happened before the eclipses actually start happening, is when the portal or the energetic whatever opens, kind of. And I have noticed that as I've been studying them to be true. So the Libra full moon that we just had recently was sort of like the opening of the gateway. So now we are in it. The first eclipse is going to happen on Saturday at 4:27 p.m. Eastern time. So here in Atlantic City is what that time is for. And this is interesting because what happens is when it's a new moon, it's a solar eclipse. So the first one's going to be a solar, it's going to be partial. And it's interesting because this is the second new moon in April. So 2 new moons in a calendar month is interesting, first of all. Second of all, this is going to be at 10 degrees and 28 minutes of the sign of Taurus. And it's particularly important for people to pay attention if you have a planet there or a chart point there. It's going to be kind of an extra sensitive experience. Usually when eclipses hit especially directly points in our own charts, is when we can kind of see or feel the most impact from the experience and the energy.
How interesting for Taurus rising.
Exactly. So I thought this was fitting for our next episode to talk about this, because we have a lot to share. Yeah. So this one will only be visible the southern tip of South America and the ocean between that point and parts of Antarctica. So we won't get to see this one here. If you live there, cool. Check out the time. The resource I use for the locations and the visibility is timeanddate.com. They're a really great resource to see, like, they have a whole eclipse maps and stuff, so you can see like where it's completely visible and partially visible and all the way out. So that's a really great resource if you want to look it up and check out your location and see if you can see it. But this one, so the sign of Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus, as we've talked about on our show. So our charts are both ruled by Venus. And right now, Venus is in the sign of Pisces and has been for a little while now. We have kind of a pile up in Pisces at the moment. I wrote a blog post about that you all can find on the Sea Goddess website and also my website if you want to look at that more. And we'll share those resources at the end.
In Pisces.
Pile up in Pisces.
Woo,
so,
that sounds special.
Yeah, so Venus is said to be exalted in the sign of Pisces. So it's just like, open heart, loving energy usually. So
Right.
this one's good because of that rulership. So we always look at rulership to kind of think about the whole, experience. But also it's going to be very close to the planet Uranus. So when you talked about positive change, that's a really good way to looking at this energy, because when Uranus is involved, anything can happen. Expect the unexpected. And the fact that it's a North Node eclipse, it brings us into our personal and collective soul's growth points. So this one's sort of flavored in a good way, I think. I think the energetic setup is kind of nice, honestly. And Taurus, we're in spring season. Think about the flowers and everything that's in bloom in the Northern Hemisphere. And it's very earthy and sensual. So, part of the experience going into it could just be like getting outside, getting in nature, getting really grounded. And, just like you said, having a positive outlook.
Awesome.
So, yeah, everything that you said kind of lines up with what I'm seeing and feeling and thinking about the energy. The Pisces energy can be a little ethereal as well. I wrote about that. It can be a little confusing just because it's the sign that relates most to our transcendence and our connection to like everything outside of ourselves and the beyond and source and all those things. So if you're feeling a little confusion or have been for a little while, it is because we have so many planets in Pisces right now. But going into this eclipse, I think it's going to be nice.
I've been feeling excited about it. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for positive change. I feel like I've done a lot of work. I feel like there's been a lot of shadow work that's happened. We're coming out of post-COVID. God, it's been a shitty couple of years. Like, let's all face it. So like, I'm ready for life and happiness and sunshine. So hopefully this solar eclipse brings some of that my way, is like what I'm hoping and feeling into and desiring and co-creating.
Yeah, it's all about how we work with the energy, right? Yeah. So that's our solar, and that's coming up on Saturday, like I said. And then, so eclipses always happen in pairs. Sometimes there could even be 3 or 4, depending. So the next one will be a total lunar eclipse on Monday, May 16th at 12:13 a.m. It's also Eastern Daylight Time at 25 degrees and 17 minutes of the sign of Scorpio. So they happen in the opposite signs. We have the new moon in Taurus and then the full moon in Scorpio. So that'll be our lunar eclipse of this pair. There will only be 2 this time around, which is a little bit of a relief. Sometimes eclipse season can go on and on. Like in 2020, we experienced some intense eclipse seasons with multiples.
Like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. But the energy of this one's going to be a bit different just because of a few factors. One, so Venus rules Taurus. Mars is the traditional ruler of the sign of Scorpio. Mars is also in Pisces. And with Mars in Pisces, Mars relates to our drive and our will and how we can be aggressive. And in Pisces, it's just kind of like watered down a little bit, I guess you could say. So things like, if you're feeling extra intense on this one, things like surfing or like, getting in water could be helpful, swimming, doing things like that to get the energy out. This one's going to be moody and pretty intense emotionally. That is generally the vibe of Scorpio anyway. And intense emotions kind of go along with the territory in that sign. The south node is where we collectively and individually release energy from. So there could be something that comes to an end, or the end of a cycle, or something in your life that actually does get eclipsed out in a way, or some of the things that can happen with this one. But this one's going to be
out of
interesting.
jail. They got a karmic jail from the past.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, seriously. There's a lot of things at play when we talk about this. Yeah. Yeah. But it's going to be extremely watery, just because all of these planets that are in Pisces are making a supportive energetic flow to the south node and the moon in Scorpio. And the moon said to be fallen in Scorpio. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just there's different energies at play in the way that the energy expresses. Another fun fact is this is said to be the Scorpio full moon is said to be when the Buddha was born and also died. So it could be fun to kind of like explore Buddha's story and kind of get in touch with your inner Buddha a little bit in this experience. But definitely lots of emotion, lots of release. So if you're feeling that, I highly recommend whatever you need to do, get the energy out. We don't want that stored up. We don't want that sitting in our bodies. We don't want that sitting around in our energetic field, in our lives at all. So release, release, release.
What are some of your favorite ways to release?
I was just going to ask you the same thing.
I want to know yours.
If I need to cry, I cry. If I'm feeling more aggressive or anger, the pillow screaming stuff works really well. Getting the energy up with movement also works really well. Just going to the beach and being by the water is really helpful for me. Just some kind of movement, so you're getting it up and out of your body. What about you?
Same thing. Yeah, I gotta usually shake my attitude out. So dancing or yoga, burning things is nice. Writing, I like to write, release, sometimes throw it away, burn it, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. The other thing too that's going to be interesting about this one is Jupiter and Venus will have changed signs at that point. So Jupiter's been in Pisces for a while now. Jupiter stays in a sign roughly a year, and it's going to go into Aries in time for this before this eclipse, and then throughout the rest of the year it'll kind of dance back and forth between Pisces and Aries before it fully moves into Aries. And Venus will also be in Aries at this time. So action is kind of like a call to action, perhaps, is something else that might flavor this experience for people collectively and individually. And then the other thing is we'll be in the midst of Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
So just to add more intensity to it, this will be our second Mercury retrograde of the year in Gemini. So at least that's a Mercury ruled sign. So things like writing and what you talked about will probably be good practices during this time too, if you're really feeling it.
Beautiful. Thanks, Urs.
Yeah, that's very much in alignment. And the other thing that's cool is this eclipse will be visible for us, fully visible on the East Coast, the eastern half of the United States.
The May 16th one?
Mm-hmm, the lunar one. So if it's not a cloudy night, at 12:13 a.m.
Okay, it's like midnight time.
Yeah, if you're up. And if you've never watched an eclipse before, it's pretty cool. I mean, I always make sure I protect my energy and all that, just being out underneath that energy. But yeah, it's fun to watch the moon go kind of red to dark to red again. So if you're in areas where you can see it and you want to watch it, you can, because it's not cloudy. Ooh. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So that's the energies that we're working with. I thought that it would be fun to kind of go by rising sign and tell people where it's happening in their charts. If you know your rising signs, then you'll kind of get, I like to work with it as themes of the house where things are happening. So if you know your houses that the eclipses are happening in, sometimes it can give you a little bit more information leading into it of what to expect, or what some of the themes you might already be feeling are, or things that are happening in your life. So we can go through that. And then I thought it could be fun for us to do our personal shares when we get to Taurus, if you want to do that.
All right, let's do it.
So if you're an Aries rising, this eclipse set will be happening in your 2nd and your 8th houses. So the energetic focus is on the North node, and the release point is the South node. So if you're Aries rising, the focus is on your second, which is your confidence and your personal resources. And the eighth is shared resources and kind of where you merge with other people. So those could be some themes going on there. And then Taurus rising. So we can talk about our experiences.
Can we do all the other ones first and go back to us? Or
yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
Okay.
So for Gemini risings, they're happening in your 12th and your 6th. So North Node in the 12th and South Node in the 6th. And 12th and 6th is mental health, where we go for retreat, for escape. And 6th is physical health and your day-to-day habits and practices. So if you're feeling any focus in those areas of your life, then it's probably because this energy is building and the eclipses are going to be happening there. If you're Cancer rising, it's your 11th and your 5th, North Node in the 11th, South Node in the 5th. Those two phases of the chart relate to community and kind of like your vision for your future is the 11th, and the 5th is the house of fun. So releasing anything that doesn't bring you joy could be a really cool part of this experience since the South Node is going through that space. The other thing about the 5th is it relates to our creativity and creative projects and things that we birth into the world. So like actual children or creative ideas and projects. So that could be cool. And then if you're a Leo rising, it's happening in your 10th and your 4th. So North Node in the 10th and South going through the 4th. 10 and 4 is your private life and your public life. It's your home and your family. 4th house and 10th house is you and your role in the outside world, could also relate to your career. And 4th, one of the things about the 4th that is kind of like a lesser talked about aspect is your authentic self. So like releasing anything that doesn't serve you any longer, that's holding you back from being who you truly are. Could be part of that experience. If you're a Virgo rising, it's your 9th and your 3rd, North Node of the 9th, and then South Node going through the 3rd. 9th house is higher learning, higher self, foreign experiences. So things like long distance travel, higher education, higher learning, philosophy, beliefs. And 3rd is communication. And it's also shorter term experiences. So like smaller classes, shorter classes, shorter distance travel in like your local neighborhood. And then we go through and then everything kind of flips. So if you're a Libra rising, it's also your 2nd and your 8th, but it's flipped. So South Node going through your 2nd, North Node going through your 8th. And Scorpio rising is opposite of us. So that's also 1st and 7th, but it would be South Node going through the 7th, North Node going through the 1st. And we'll talk about the details and themes of those houses when we talk about our experiences. Sagittarius rising, also 12 and 6, but it's flipped from what I said for Gemini. Capricorn also 11th and 5th, but also flipped. And Aquarius 10 and 4, and Pisces 9 and 3. So for us Taurus risings, it's 1 and 7, North Node going through our 1st and South Node going through our 7th. 1 and 7 relate to the individual self, and then yourself in partnership and relationship. 1 is about our physical body. So interesting, you said some things about flare-ups and other things that are kind of happening in that space. It's also kind of, it's our mask in a way. It's the way that we work through the world. It's how other people see us. And then 7 is us in relationship and partnership with others. So things like a spouse or a best friend, more intimate relationships. But it's also the space where we draw people into our lives that can kind of hold up a mirror for us to teach us about ourselves. So those are the spaces happening for us individually as Taurus risings. And the last time the eclipses in this kind of configuration, North Node and South Node specifically, occurred were the fall of 2003 into 2004. So 18 and a half years ago would have been about that time. So what was happening for you in 2003 and 2004? And where are you now in relation and relative to those experiences?
I grew up, I was a senior in high school, fall of 2003, and then I graduated spring 2004. And in those times, like I worked full time, I went to school full time. I was pushing myself to adrenal fatigue and exhaustion for the first time, which I wasn't, consciously aware of at that time. And now I'm adding on a second job in addition to our business, and I'm going to be approaching it with such different mindset and balance and sense of self and source and identity, because I was like certainly looking for myself as an 18-year-old, but I didn't know who the fuck I was and what I was after. I just, wanted to know better and do better and be better. And I was pushing the candle way too far. And I entered my first serious relationship. I lost my virginity then. It ended up being an abusive relationship, and it wasn't good. And it lasted probably like 6 months or so, and fell off in like fall of probably like September of 2004. So that was like, and it really had a lot to do with my self-worth and all the things, because it, like I said, it was an abusive experience, and it took away from that. What I was hoping to be really special and beautiful, it wasn't. And it's 111 now as we speak, and that's forward. And yeah, and then I broke my back for the first time too. I broke my back 3 times, and I broke my back as a competitive snowboarder in my first like pro competition in March of 2004. And so, and I also because I lost my virginity, I went on the Depo-Provera birth control shot, and it fucked me up. I gained like 60 pounds in like 5 weeks, and it made me really sick, and a lot of things happened, and I hurt my back. So there was just a lot that all happened, and growing up, and a lot of things in personal relationships and my body and my boundaries and relationships with myself, and things I just didn't even know existed back then that I'm really aware of now.
That's a lot of growth.
How's that?
That's perfect. It's so perfect. And I just want to note too, like, this is the space of the physical body. So things like that can happen, accidents can happen, but it's really in how you handle it, what you do out of that situation, and how you can grow from it. And look at you. I mean, you're now going into a job that might be a little bit physically demanding, but you're doing it, and you can do it, and you healed yourself. And, look where you're at 18 years later.
Yep.
And on the relationship side too, like, you now know your self-worth, and you put that first, and you're not going to settle for anything less.
You are my witness. I most certainly will not.
Yes.
You're with me on my dating journey the past couple years. And, I, of course, want partnership. I want that beautiful, healthy relationship. But every time I have a relationship, I allow it to turn back into me, and how I can create a healthier relationship with myself. And also, be open to being in a relationship that's going to be healthy, and not just settling for something that's kind of toxic or working. Relationships are work, but it can get to a point where you work too hard, and you're making excuses, and you're forcing things to happen. And now I'm very much like just open to receiving all good and honoring, my own boundaries. And it's been pretty nice and pretty rewarding. So who knows, maybe I'll invite in something new and fresh and nice over eclipse season. Who knows? But I know that there's been a lot of healing in that space for sure. And I'm very much like grateful and happy for where I'm at in my own life and in my own sense of self.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful way to work with the energy. And we're all in Earth school, we're all learning the life lessons and coming out, reflecting back on that time in your life, and looking at where you are now is really important, because these, eclipses happen in cycles. That energy is going to come around again in another 18 and a half years. And then we'll have a chance to look at this for ourselves again and see where we were and then where we're at. So it's really interesting the way that they work. It's like, one of the graphics that I see a lot is like the cosmic egg, and just the cycle, the circle, the spiral, whatever that goes around. And it's just like, cycles and cycles and cycles. And one of the things that we get to do in this experience this time around too, is with the Mercury retrograde happening concurrently, we can change our mindset about certain things. So that offers us another gift to work with the energy in a very specific way. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's been going on for you, and what happened 18 and a half years ago?
I was reflecting back on that time, and it feels a little blurry for me. I had just graduated college in 2002. So I was 21, 22 years old, 23 at the end of 2003. And I was trying to really find my way. The degree that I graduated with, I didn't feel like I could apply to anything in the real world. So, or the things that I could apply it to, I didn't want to do. Like, I didn't want to go work in Wall Street. Like, I graduated with a business economics degree. So I went back to school for a couple of years after I graduated from my 4-year undergrad. And this is when I discovered the career path that I was actually on for the last 11 and a half years. My senior year in college is when I discovered GIS, Geographic Information Systems. So I went to Stockton when I came home from Rutgers, and I got a certificate in that. So this was really me like finding my way through post 21, post college. What do I do with my life? It was the first time I lived on my own with the partner I was with at the time. I moved out of my mom and dad's and started living in an apartment and paying rent. It was a real growing up experience, honestly. The other thing too was I was in a relationship that was not good for me. It was, I just wanted to help, and I was the financial support for both of us. I worked myself really hard all the time to make ends meet. It was very financially unstable in the partnership, and I was very forced to be the one that was responsible for all of the bills and everything. And I stuck with it just because I loved him and I didn't want to give up. But it was also a big learning experience in that space of my chart as well. So coming back around now, North Node going through my first again, here we are doing Taurus rising, a completely different trajectory and career path that I'm on now at post-corporate world. And I'm in a beautiful, supportive, loving marriage. And, I left the other one putting myself first because I just couldn't do it anymore. And something else beautiful came out of it.
And we have a beautiful business partnership.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because we've talked about this before, but the way that I work with the lunar energy is I'll set my intentions on new moons looking kind of at the space 6 months out. So the intention that I had set for the new moon in Scorpio back in the fall was for any close relationships that were no longer serving my highest good to be released from my life. And coming around full circle to May 16th, that has definitely happened, especially in our business partnership space. So interesting as well how that worked. And, what else may be eclipsed, I'm not sure, but we'll find out.
And we'll tell and we'll report back.
Exactly. We could even do like a mid-eclipse season check-in, maybe.
Maybe we will do that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so beautiful.
Yeah, I want to pull a card for everybody.
Okay.
So one of the energies that is sort of more tangible during eclipse season is elementals and dragons specifically. So a lot of times during eclipse season, I'll actually even see like dragon shapes in the clouds and stuff. It's really interesting. My dragon guide started communicating with me in 2017 during the Great American Eclipse timeframe. So I've been very interested in working with dragon energy for a while now. And Diana Cooper has this dragon oracle deck. So I like to work with it a lot during eclipse seasons, just because that energy is more available to us. So I'm going to pull a card for everyone. Let's see what comes up. So we got the white gold dragon from Lyra, connects you to the highest Christ light. Develop your causal chakra, bathe in 9th dimensional Christ light. It's beautiful. Look at that dragon. I know it's backwards, but dragon. Yeah. So that's really beautiful.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So guidance just to, sit in our own power, focus on our highest vibration energy and connection to our higher selves. I think that's really important. That's a really good message. And if anything's happening, pay attention to just what's happening. If anything's coming through or coming in that, is change during this time, during eclipses, you got to be open to it and kind of be open to what the universe is trying to tell you. It's not always the easiest thing, but that's part of it. I know change is definitely hard, and emoting and releasing is also hard, but that's the human work.
It's the way of the Earth School. The only thing that's constant is change, and the only species that survives is the one that's able to adapt most to change.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Anything you want to share? Anything else you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, if you're tuning in, please give us a like, a share, a follow. We're Sea Goddess Healing Arts on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We've got a beautiful website with lots of information coming. We have a spring festival coming up. And if you're watching this in the future, we probably have other events going on and farmers markets this summer and wonderful workshops to reap the rewards of retrograde. So please tune in, like, subscribe, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
We have that class starting on May 18th.
Yep. Right after Eclipse.
Yeah. Registration's on our website.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for tuning in and spending some time with us here on Taurus Rising.